Good morning. I'm Tom O'Malley with Multipath Data. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning for the KACE webinar. I became aware of KACE about 7 years ago when I was the regional sales director at Dell. I was managing a team of salespeople and engineers in the greater Midwest. Dell was on a purchasing binge, and KACE was one of those companies. At that time, we talked to clients about the ease of use, the time saved, the budget saved, because KACE allowed one person to manage tens, if not hundreds of devices in a fraction of the time. We pointed out that some clients would see the ROI in weeks because KACE discovered all of the software and hardware on the network, what licenses were deployed, and which ones were not being used, thus allowing companies to cancel contracts on the unused licenses. Those same strengths remain today, but in today's world, every day we're inundated with news about ransomware, phishing, vishing, crypto mining, malware, etc., etc. KACE has a place in the security conversation. The researchers tell us, as do the articles on major cybercrimes, Atlanta comes to mind recently, that simply patching devices and software could have prevented the vast majority of these hacks. Cyber education for employees could have prevented a vast majority of these problems as well. But that's just a webinar for another day. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Richie Anderson. Richie is a very experienced SC at KACE, and we are very fortunate that he was available today to demonstrate these very powerful tools from KACE. Richie, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thanks for the invite. I'm glad to be with you guys today. And what you see on my screen right now is kind of a diagram of what is offered through the KACE solutions. Kind of starting here on the left-hand side. So inventory, patching, asset, software distribution, service desk, and reporting. So that is part of our systems management appliance, as you can see here in the circle to the upper left-hand quadrant there. So kind of the daily feeding and monitoring of your systems. Are my systems up to date? Do I know what software is installed? Are my users installing software or doing things I don't want them to do? That is how the management appliance can help you. Going straight down to the deployment appliance. So in today's environment, we find a lot of customers who are running Windows 7, with plans to move to Windows 10. How do you make that happen? Without having to touch every machine, without having to kind of rework everything. Let's go with an automated solution, something that will push the images out, making your life much easier. Whether you're imaging one machine at a time, or 10, or 30, or 100, we have a solution that will help you with that. Moving now to the upper right-hand corner with desktop authority. So the left-hand side is dealing with computers, making sure that computers are behaving how you want, protecting them, making sure they're secure. Now on the right-hand side with desktop authority and with privilege manager, we're talking about users. So making sure that the users have access only to the things that you want them to have access to. Can they, bring in any old USB stick and plug it in and get what they want? In today's world, that's pretty common. But we can enable some USB port security. They can still use a USB maybe to read or to charge their devices, but other than that, let's kind of lock them down. Coming down to kind of least privilege environments. We find that a lot of our customers have given users admin rights because it solves some problems. They're not always calling the help desk, to install a printer driver or some mundane software that just becomes a hassle. Well, we can do this through a least privilege environment, meaning we'll elevate processes rather than users, therefore freeing up the service desk to do what you guys do best, which is, getting problems taken care of before they're real big issues. So that's kind of what we'll talk about today. We'll focus mainly here on the devices with the systems management and the systems deployment appliance. And we'll kind of walk through this and show you how it works. That's the only slide I have for today's presentation. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to come into my systems management appliance. And what is systems management? Times change, things change in your environment, so that will your view of what it is will also change from time to time. So KACE is a little different than a lot of our competition. As you look at, Microsoft System Center or Ivanti, Landesk, Manage Engine, we're a little different in the sense that we are an appliance solution, meaning there's no need for you to have, Windows servers up and running, to house the application. You don't have to have databases. It's all in the appliance. It is a virtual appliance. It will run in VMware or Hyper-V. And as long as you've got that appliance, you then install agents on each machine that you want to manage. Those agents talk back to the main systems management appliance. By default, they will check in every 2 hours. And when they check in, it's telling them any data that has changed. Have I installed new software? Do I have a new hard drive? Is there more RAM, less RAM? It's telling anything that's changed with that machine. And then this dashboard view, if you look at the upper right-hand corner, you can see that I am logged in. So it is role and scope-based login. So if you have multiple IT people in your organization, you can give them different views, different, access to different things so that they get things that are relevant to them doing their job. This dashboard is configurable. So if there's something that I want to add that isn't there, I can click on customize and I can say, you know what, I do want to see the latest news articles, and it'll show up here at the bottom. So, again, you customize it for the look and feel that you want to make it, your environment. Label management in the KACE world. When we talk about labels, we're talking about a way to group machines together. Active Directory is a great tool. We find that, it's not always as up to date as we want it to be. So, we'll integrate with your Active Directory, but we'll take it a step further, and the smart labels are dynamic. And that just means that they change. So if you put rules in place and, you want to understand something about a machine, meaning, hey, who has less than 10% disk space free? That would be a smart label. When the agent checks in, it says, hey, I have a rule. Do I have less than 10% disk space? No, great, I'm just going to keep going. If I do, okay, what rule? Oh, I have to send an email to somebody, maybe open up a service desk ticket. Those are things that you can do through smart labels. When we talk about inventory, what is out on my network? We have customers talk to us daily about, managing assets. And, we ask them, there's a lot of ways to manage assets. Probably the most common that we hear is an Excel spreadsheet. There's a lot of tools out there, whether it's Trackit or a spreadsheet or Ivanti, there's lots of ways to keep track of assets. We believe that we have one of the best ways to do this. And, keeping track of your information, it's hard to manage what you don't know you don't have. So we want to help with that. You can see here on my devices, I've got a few different icons. This has a red dash to it. That just means that it's not currently online. So I still have all the inventory information about it. This one happens to be a printer. As I come down, I've got laptops, I've got, other machines as well. So anything that rides on your network that has an IP address, we can help you inventory and keep track of it. As far as that agent goes, obviously it is an agent, so it has to have an operating system to install. We have agents that will run on Windows, Mac, and Linux, therefore helping you keep track of all of those devices, also keeping them up to date from a patching perspective. Security becomes a big deal. And we'll go deeper into security in a few minutes. Looking at a machine, I'm going to go to a machine that gives me a little more information here. So as I look at this machine, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and you'll see the amount of detail that we're collecting on a machine. There's my system name, assigned to, so I can assign who the user is, so I can keep track of that. What kind of model is it? The chassis type, is it a laptop, workstation, or server? Will show up there. The IP address, memory. Again, you can kind of read the different things that are there. CPU, inventory information, the last time it was collected. Time zone. As I come down, I can also click on hardware and get a little more detailed. So you can see not only am I seeing how much memory there is, in the machine, but how much is being used. And, what's the maximum that could be put in. So this machine happens to be maxed out in hardware, meaning I can't install any more memory there. Coming down, I also, for Dell systems, we keep track of Dell service tag information along with warranty. This information comes from support.dell.com. So it is always updated and ready to go for you to use out of the box, no additional work on your part. Coming down, I have BIOS information. I can see printers that are attached to a machine. I can get more agent information. I can see user information. So again, we collect a lot of data. You know, if you want to keep track of it, we probably collect it, and then we can do some reports to keep track of it. I can see all software that's been installed on a machine. You know, again, as a help desk technician, I believe this is very useful. You know, you can see what software has changed most recently. So as I look at that, I can see that, hey, this is what's changed. So if someone calls my help desk and their machine's not working as it did yesterday, I typically will ask them, hey, what's changed on your machine? 99% of the time they say nothing. You know, that nobody ever changes anything on their machine. Well, looking here, I can see that something has changed, and whether it was them or an automatic update, you know, at least I'm going to be able to identify that. Also, looking at all of the software that is here, you know, if I click on a piece of software, this, you know, Adobe Acrobat, as I look here, you know, I can see who the publisher is. Here's a link to support for it. You know, if I want to uninstall it, there's a command line to uninstall it. You know, it's supported on Windows 7, Windows 10, and as I scroll down, you can see which machines this is currently installed on as well. And this is going to help make things a lot more helpful to you to know where it is, how many copies of that do you own. So keeping track of who's got it installed and how many you own help keep you in compliance from a license perspective. Coming back, I'm going to hit my back arrow, so I'm back to the device information. And you know, if you're using the service desk that's offered as part of KACE, you know, I would see service desk tickets are associated with a machine. I can see patching levels. I can get more Dell hardware information. So again, as I stated earlier, if it is data that is about the machine, we're probably collecting it and can, you know, get that out to you in the form of a email or a report or notification, you know, whatever you need to make your environment run. Moving along to the software catalog. This is a huge plus. The software catalog helps you keep track of what is in my environment. You know, as you look at this, you know, some things that pop up here. You know, the one thing I really want to focus on is Microsoft Office. We find our customers are always wanting to know, hey, who has Office installed? What version is there? You know, and how many copies are we owning? So you can see in my environment at the bottom here, I've got 56 titles that are kind of associated with Office. You know, I could change that to Microsoft Office or something and get a clearer picture. But what I wanted to show you here was, you can see here with Office 2016, I've got 7 copies installed. I've got 8 of 2013 standard. I've got 52 of 2013 Pro Plus. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the 2016 for now. And as I do that, you know, this is going to give me more details. So I'm metering it. So I want to know, are people actually running this software in their environment? I've got 7 copies installed. I have not told KACE that I own any licenses yet. Also, as I come down, I can see, you know, which programs make up the Pro Plus suite for 2016, which versions are installed, and coming down at the very bottom, I get a quick view of, you know, what has been run just in the last 7 days. You can see Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and for how long they have run. You know, giving you just a quick snapshot of kind of what's going on, you know, in the last 7 days for my environment. You know, the other option that I have here is a not allowed. And what we find, you know, this is useful for is, you know, if you have given admin rights to your users, they may install software that you don't want to allow run in your environment. So what you can do is you can choose not allowed. With Office, that's not really applicable. So what I like to do is I like to show here in the software catalog, typically as an admin, I want to be proactive. So I would come into not discovered because I've done a good job in my environment, and I know there's no, you know, BitTorrent applications that are running because I don't want that peer-to-peer file sharing stuff in my environment. So I'm going to come into not discovered, meaning it's not in my environment, but it is part of the KACE catalog. So I can come in here and I can just type in torrent, right? And as I do that, it's going to go out and find all of the torrent applications that are part of my KACE catalog. And then what I can do here is I can simply choose the box here at the upper left-hand corner. choose action, and I can say mark not allowed. And by doing the mark not allowed, it is not going to run in my environment. It is, going to give me a little pop-up that says, hey, this has been blacklisted and will not run in your environment. You can be more proactive if you want to set up a notification to send you or the help desk a ticket that says, hey, XYZ system or user just tried to launch, BitTorrent. You can be notified of that. So this is just a quick and easy way to, show that in your environment. The software catalog is going to be useful for many different software titles that you have. Really the most effective is keeping track of your licenses and what's installed. And I'm going to kind of shift gears into asset management for just a minute while we're kind of talking about that license management and keeping track of what people have installed and are using. And I'm going to come to my license compliance. And when we talk about license compliance, obviously, hey, what's installed versus what do I own? And you can see here at a quick view kind of what's going on. You can see I've got some areas of risk and I've got some areas of surplus. So, you can see quickly here that, hey, I'm over licensed with this IntelliJ IDEA, and I'm under licensed with Office. I've got a big problem here. So if I click on Office, if you remember, I had 2007, 2010, 13, and 16. Well, here's kind of a breakdown of what's going on. So total, I've got 115 installed, but I only own 50.
We lost Richie there for a second. He's going to pull back in. 1 second, please.
Hello, can you guys hear me now? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, all right. Not sure what happened there. All right.
Don't see your screen yet.
Right. Do you need to make me presenter? Last time I had something that said share my screen.
Showing you as an admin, so.
All right, oh, there we go. Screen. It just is in a different spot. Sorry about that. Share, come on. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we were talking about license compliance and the ability to kind of see at a brief view, kind of, hey, where are you? Am I over licensed? Am I under licensed? Do I have some areas of risk? We have customers that get audits, whether it's Microsoft or Adobe or Quest, hey, what's installed versus what we own? I would like to know that before, the audit actually comes through to me, or if an audit does come, I can run a report and say, here's what I have. Microsoft, Adobe, they all accept the case reports so that you can send them that. And guess what? There's no need to go through the audit because you've just provided your, hey, here's what I own, here's what's installed, and you're good to go. So that's the advantage of having this license compliance. I'm going to move back to inventory to kind of wrap up the inventory piece, understanding what's out on your network. So as I come here into my discovery schedules, I want to understand just beyond computers, because that agent installs, we find it. It's there. But I can set up a discovery schedule. I can go out and I can find things, that are on my network, whether it's a router, a printer, a switch, an IP phone, different things that you can go and identify and see, hey, what is out there? What's going on? Active Directory. If you've got, mobile device management, we can integrate with the KACE Cloud Mobile, G Suite, or AirWatch. So finding those devices makes your life a lot easier so that you know what's out there. You can see the Discover results as well. So, I ran an Active Directory scan or an SNMP, it's going to show me what it came back with. As I find those, if I decide it's something that I actually want to keep track of, I can check the box and I can say, guess what? I want to provision that agent or agentlessly, so I can see that in my environment and know that it's being tracked. And that kind of wraps up the inventory piece. Just thinking of inventory as everything that's out in your environment. Not necessarily that you own it, but we're telling you from a collection standpoint, that's what's out on your network. Because it's on your network, odds are you own it. But it really is the asset management piece where now we start to interact with you and say, hey, tell us how much you own. Tell us what's going on in your environment. So with that, what you're able to do is, you can see here the different asset types. I've got computers. I've got some data center racks that I'm keeping track of. I've also got infrastructure. I might have some licenses. So, depending on what you want to keep track of, we'll be there to help you. All of my assets are currently unassigned. What's the cost of unused software? You can see here at a quick dashboard view with this IntelliJ, I've got $6,000 worth that's, I'm over licensed on, a little bit on Adobe Air and 1Password. Look where I'm out of compliance. My Office, I've got 115 installed. I own 50 licenses. Visio, 26 and 20. So again, you've got a quick dashboard view to kind of see, hey, where are we in trouble and what do we need to address? Coming down, who are my biggest, installed software titles and publishers? And coming down, this was just like that original dashboard that we looked at, right? If there's something that I don't want to see, you know what? Just hit the remove and get it gone. So, this allows you to quickly and easily see the things that are important to you. So you're not seeing a bunch of gibberish that doesn't make sense. We'll get rid of it. Let's make sure we're all able to do our jobs. The types of assets that we can keep track of, certainly anything IT related that has an IP address, is very simple and easy because it can find it and log in. But we can go well beyond that as well, as far as, a location or a contract, conference rooms, tables, chairs, automobiles, anything that you can do that you own from an asset perspective, you can use. And as I said, this is role and scope based login. So if your finance group keeps track of this information, guess what? You can give them login information and give them access to just the assets and reporting information that's relevant to them. That way, this is their asset tool, and that's all it is for them. Again, if those assets already live somewhere today, we talked about an Excel spreadsheet earlier in the conversation, or track it. Hey, as long as I can get that into a CSV, I can import it into KACE and be ready to go with all of my assets inside of my KACE appliance. I'm going to shift back up to monitoring now. I know I did skip over that. And when we talk about monitoring in the KACE world, we really are talking about the ability to look at logs on server class operating systems so that you can kind of see what's happening. Is there, an error that's going on? So that's what we talk about from monitoring. Some alerts that you can send out, some profiles that you can look at, to see what's going on with your devices. So this is not a real, uptime monitoring system. It's just looking for errors, to happen on server class operating systems. Moving along to distribution. When we talk about distribution, we are talking about the ability to push software out to your machines. No longer do you need to go from machine to machine to install software or remote control in. You can do it right from KACE, utilizing that KACE agent that you've installed. Whether you want to push Adobe Reader or 7-zip, as long as you have an MSI or an EXE file, we can help you push software out. And then the way that operates is, let's take a Google Chrome as an example here. And you'll see that, it's going to be a Windows silent install, the version 65. Here's the file that I'm using, the use associated file as an MSI. If I need to change that, I can choose file and go and select something new. As I come down, I've got some additional commands that I've done. I've got the MSI exec because it's an MSI. Also here at the end, I've got the QN so that it will be silent. That's going to allow an end user to not be prompted or to see anything on their machine. It's just going to install and they're none the wiser. They just know that they have Google Chrome installed and ready to go. As I come down, I can see which operating systems it is supported on. And coming down here a little further, I can say, hey, who do I want to deploy the software to? Do I want it to go to every device in my environment? Or do I want to pick, devices onesie, twosie at a time? Or do I want to send it to an entire label? Label, again, is nothing more than a group of computers, right? So if I have a building or a floor or a VLAN or, some type of a job function, I could target just those systems. Also, do I want to alert or notify users that something is coming down to their machine? You know what? I will leave that up to you. I typically prefer not to, because when you do that, what you'll find is it generates calls to the help desk. Someone says, hey, you're doing something on my machine. What are you doing? Well, it's in the alert that I told you, but thanks for calling. So again, that's up to you on how you want to handle that. Coming down, if you want to send it during a certain window of time. So, hey, I don't want this to happen between, 8 a.m. and noon, but I'm okay from, noon to 5. You can put that in here. Or if it's after 5, you can put 1600 into 22 or whatever time hours you want that to go through. And that's kind of how the distribution works. Again, whether it's MSI, EXE, we're going to be there to help you with it. File synchronizations, the opportunity for you to have, whether it's a travel policy or regulations or procedures, that you want everybody to always have the latest files. You can do this through file synchronization, making sure that everybody has the files that you want when they want them. Wake on LAN, know that we support Wake on LAN. We actually change things, meaning on each VLAN you can designate, one of the KACE machines as kind of that machine that will go and wake everybody up on that VLAN. No longer do the routers and switches have to support, the magic packet that goes, because you can designate one of the KACE agents as a beacon to go and wake people up. Replications, if you've got multiple offices, you can set up replication shares so that people can pull from a local repository, whether it's patches or software distributions. They can have access to those files locally rather than having to go over the wide area network. The ability to send alerts so that you can, send quick messages. Hey, an email server's down, or, the trouble ticket system isn't working. Don't send us tickets right now. Again, whatever quick message you want to get out. I know you have email, you have phone, you've got text. It's just kind of one more way to kind of get the message out about anything that you want to do. Moving on to scripting. Understand that this is a scripting warehouse. We don't do anything different or special with scripting. It just is a scripting warehouse, and you can utilize the KACE agent to take care of those scripts. So whether it's a PowerShell or a batch file or a Perl script, we don't care. Whatever script you want to use, the advantage is that you can use the KACE agent to push it and to schedule that. So, what time do you want that to run? What are you going to do? Again, we don't care how it's made or what you're going to do, but we can certainly help with that. Just to do a quick look at one here, as I click on a script, I've got offline and online scripts. Online just means it has to be connected to the KACE appliance in order to execute at the time that you say. I've also got, is it a draft, template, production, just helping you keep track of it. And again, who do I want to deploy it to? Just like we had in the managed installation, every device, onesie, twosie, or to a certain group of machines. And then you can also say, hey, I only want this to go to Windows machines or Mac machines or whatever you want to control. And then when do I want to push that out to my users? There through the schedule. Coming down, you've also got the run once at the next check-in, allow it to run while it's disconnected. So you have options available to you to help you execute that in a timely manner. You can update dependencies. You can look at, verifying. You can look at remediation. The scripting tool is very useful for you to look at and engage. Scripts are a very useful tool. We find a lot of companies don't use scripts today. So we have integrated some policies. So if I come here to a custom policy, I say, what, I've got some software in my environment that I don't want people to have. I can come to uninstaller. And what it will help me do is it will help me build a script to uninstall some software. So if I were to come in here and, for instance, I want to get rid of this, 1E agent. If I don't want that in my environment, I can select that. And it's going to launch the MSI exec with these parameters to uninstall it. Great. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And as I do that, it's going to create a script for me that's going to do that. So here's my script name, uninstall 1E agent. It's an online script. It was created from the Windows uninstaller. Let's just say I only want it to go to a couple of machines. I can select, a couple of machines. Great. I'm going to run it as local system, or I could give it some different credentials. Do I want to notify the users? Yes or no? What schedule do I want to run it on? Well, I do want to run it if it's, if it's offline. I'm going to get it the next time it does come back online. You can see it did upload a dependent file, so a VBS. And here's what we're doing. We're going to verify that a certain software key lives, in the, in the registry. And then as I come down, as long as that is there, we're going to remediate it by launching this command to uninstall it. So that's how, we've just gone and created a script for you right on the fly, evaluating this information. Additional things about scripting, we have a great tools to help teach you, how we can make scripts more available to you. Talking about security. When we talk about security in the case world, we are talking about patching. So the ability for you to, patch your systems. Talking about Windows updates, a WSUS server, or, Windows updates, whatever you're going to use, you can certainly use those systems or use KACE. I'm going to click here on subscriptions, but we take it well beyond just, your typical Windows updates. We're also going to allow you to do, Chrome, Java, Adobe Reader, different things like that. I'm going to come down here to my publishers, and you'll see about 60 of the top third-party application software listed here. So, whether it's Adobe or Apple or Cisco, coming down, you should see Google, Mozilla for Chrome. So again, if you want to patch those systems, make sure they're up to date. This is a big piece in making sure that you are up to date. Tom mentioned about the cryptocurrencies and the hacks and the things that are going on. This helps you become that group that is not going to be affected by it, right? Because if you are patching, guess what? They're going to move on to the next person. I kind of liken this unto, the neighborhood that I live in. We've got lots of alarm systems, right? And people put a sign in their window, hey, we're protected by XYZ company. And to me, that just is one more way to deter somebody from looking. Because if they come to your house and see an alarm, they're going to go to the next one. They see an alarm, they go to the next one. Oh, no alarm here. This one's, more prone to be, accessible than the others. So, keeping things patched just helps keep the bad guys away. If they want to get in, they're going to find a way, but this is going to, deter those that are just trying to find because they know what holes are open and available. Well, let's plug those so that we know that not anybody can just get in and take care of business there. All right, so that is patching in KACE. We can do Windows, we can do Mac patching. Doesn't matter to us. If you're a Dell shop, we can also do Dell updates, meaning we can update BIOS, drivers, firmware, applications, anything that comes from Dell, we can help you update. Again, allowing you to not need to go to the different machines and touch them and do updates. You can do that all right from the KACE appliance, making sure that your systems have the latest and greatest drivers and updates that come from Dell. There is a fully functioning service desk as part of KACE as well. So I know there's a lot of solutions out there for service desk, whether it's a Trackit or a BMC or SysAid or School Dude, or the list will go on if you want. But having it part of the KACE solution gives you all of the inventory information. It gives you everything about the machines, software and hardware as part of your help desk tickets. Again, reducing the number of tools that you need to use to manage your overall environment. This is me as a help desk technician. if I copy this URL at the top and paste it in here, but I get rid of admin at the end, guess what? Here's an end user portal. So now this just allows me to, drive my users here to an end user portal to log their information so that, they can keep track of their own tickets. They can see what's going on. That's one way to enter tickets. Your users can also send an email to helpdesk@yourdomain.com, auto-generate a ticket. If they call your help desk, your technicians can log it on their behalf. So there's multiple ways to get the tickets into the system. It just depends on how are you doing it today, or how do you want to do it in the future. So typically we find that, we have a solution that's going to help with that. One of the biggest detractors, right, is change. Customers just don't like change. So let's make it as similar to what you have as we can so that the processes and things will work similar to what you have running today. Coming back to the administrator console, this is all configurable. So if there are things that you need or want to see in your service desk, we can configure them, we can change them. That's part of the beauty of KACE, is how quick and easy you can change things and customize it to be what you want it to be and look like you want it to look. Kind of the last piece of this systems management appliance is reporting. So the ability for you to quickly and easily get the information that you want. I mean, I showed you all of the different data points, whether it was hardware or software information, so now what do I do with that information? How do I get it? It's a back-end MySQL database. So if you know SQL queries, you can write custom reports to your heart's content, or you can utilize them, the things that we already have. For instance, if I'm doing patching, and I kind of want to know the status of my patching, guess what? I can choose patching reports and I can see this. So I did a patch run and I need to say, hey, who didn't reboot their machine or who needs to reboot their machine? I can simply click HTML. It's going to go and run a report right now and verify, hey, who did we patch that has not rebooted yet? So because if they haven't rebooted, the patch hasn't taken effect. Let's make sure. Well, great, I'm good to go. Nobody needs to reboot the systems. This is what that is telling me. So you can rest assured that, hey, we're patched, we're covered, we're rebooted. We don't need to worry about that anymore. If you want to look at some Dell warranty, hey, which machines are going to be coming out of warranty in a certain amount of time? You can see here that I've got, less than 60 days. Well, guess what? I probably want to know more. So I'm going to say, I'm going to change this. I'm going to duplicate this report. And when I do that, so I've now got a copy. So I'm going to say computers with Dell warranty expiring, and I'm going to put 180 days. Okay, so I'm going to change this as well to 180. Oops, one extra zero there. Perfect. And then I'm going to come in here. But what I need to do now is I need to change my filters out. So with what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to filters, and rather than 60, I want to change that to 180. So I'll hit my edit. I'll come here and I'll do 180, add that, and guess what? I now have a report that is going to do that. It looks like I named it wrong. I did 18 days, so I'm going to come in here and make sure I get that right. All right, 180. 180. Why is it not doing that? So I guess I'll leave that for now. So, but now I have that report that's good to go, and I am now in the driver's seat. And what I can do now is I can say, hey, I want that to be delivered to me. So I can report schedules. I can say, you know what, I want that once a month so that I always know 6 months out what's going to be going on. So I can come here and I can choose action and new. And I can come here and I can say, I'm just going to call it Dell warranty 180 days. I want it to be delivered in HTML format. And here I'm going to put in 18 for now. There we go. And what's the subject? Perfect. And then, who do I want it to go to? I'll put me in as the. All right. So that's who it's going to go to. do I want to put it on a message? Well, I want it run every, I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to do the first of every month, and I'll just do it at 7 a.m. And then I can save that. Now I'm going to have a report that's going to be delivered to me on the first of every month about what's coming out of warranty in the next 6 months. I can change that. I could have it every other month if I wanted. So again, you just need to understand what it is you want in your environment, and you will be off to the races. Part of reporting as well is notifications. So if you remember in the distribution, we had alerts. So the ability for you to send a quick little message out to your users. Notifications are the devices talking back to you. So you can kind of see some of the examples I have here, a server error, or less than X% disk space free, or computer hasn't been inventoried. So again, this allows you to be proactive, because people call the help desk and something has happened. You kind of go, boy, I wish I'd have known about that yesterday or the day before. Well, now you can do that. You can set these alerts up so that you can be proactive as an IT group. Ways that those are created, again, choose action, new device notification, and it's all wizard driven. So you don't have to know code. You don't need to see what's going on. So you can do it based on a number of elements, connection time, device ID, IP address. So kind of on and on. There's a lot of ways for you to create this information. And that kind of wraps up the systems management appliance. And again, as I said, the systems management is kind of your day-to-day running of the KACE appliance, making sure that your machines are updated, they're patched, they're secure. You have a help desk solution. Part of the help desk solution also is, being able to take care of service tickets, when and how you want to. So, that therein comes kind of the next piece. I just dragged over our K1 Go application. So the ability for you as an IT guy to have access to this information wherever you are. I don't need to log into a system to see it. Guess what? It's right on my mobile device, iOS or Android. You can go to the appropriate store, download it, to get access to your information. Here I can see all of my service desk tickets. I can also see inventory information. If I needed to push software, I can do that from here as well. So, you can see here that it becomes a tool that becomes very valuable to IT administrators, so that, guess what? They have a tool, they have access to all of their information in one repository. They don't need to change from tool to tool in order to make this stuff work. And that does wrap up the systems management appliance. I'm going to log into what we call the systems deployment appliance. And when we talk about systems deployment, we're talking about imaging. So the ability to send you information or update, from Windows 7 to Windows 10, or a machine crashes and you need to re-image it. That's what the systems deployment is going to do. So, ways that we work are through a Pixie boot. So there's no agent that needs to be installed. This all works over the network. If you want to create thumb drives or ISO images, we can certainly do that. But kind of the preferred methodology is to do it over the network. That way you don't have to have somebody local and ready to go. It's all press an F12 to do a network boot, and then we can kind of help you re-image that machine and keep things going. We operate a little bit differently. So again, we have a tight integration with Dell. As I look at the driver feed, when it comes to imaging, drivers are probably the single largest pain, making sure you have the right ones. You can see here, I've got a laundry list of, Dell business class machines that I can get drivers for: Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. So it doesn't matter, what you're putting out to those machines. Dell will supply the drivers. They can be downloaded and available on the KACE appliance, so you don't have to go and look for them and search and find the right ones, but they're there and ready for you to utilize. Also, still in the library, we have pre-installation tasks. So before I deploy Windows 7 or Windows 10 or a server OS, what do I want to do? If it's an existing machine, do I want to collect the computer information? Do I want to save a profile? Is it going to be one partition or two? Those are things that you can identify here. If there's something that you do to a machine that you don't see in our list, you can always come to choose action and add, whether it's an application or some kind of a script. We can do it. It may take a little bit of customizing or work on your end, but it can be done. Then we have post-installation tasks. So the ability for you to do the pre-install task, lay down Windows 10 or 7, and then what do I want to do after? Do I want to join it to a domain? Do I want to install a software package? Do I want to install the KACE agent for the systems management appliance? Those are what we would consider post-installation tasks. So giving you the ability to kind of see what these are, and you know what, if they're, again, something you want to add, you can add an application. Also, you could import a managed installation from the KACE SMA. So if you've created it in the SMA, you're going to have the ability to import that. You don't need to recreate the job or duplicate it. You just import it, and you are going to be able to utilize that in both solutions. User states, so the ability for you to go and capture, what is it that a user has. We hear from customers all the time that one of the biggest problems with re-imaging is that it doesn't capture the profile. They don't have the same background that they had before. And for some reason, that just makes end users uncomfortable. Anytime there's change, they just get a little worked up and aren't quite sure how to handle it. So this is a way that we can kind of limit that and make sure that we're giving them the data that's relevant to them. Now, if I come back to deployments, some things that we can do. So we talked about a couple of different things here. So when you talk about imaging, a lot of customers today are still very accustomed to semantic ghost and creating an image. That image is going to be kind of a picture, if you will, of that hard drive. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to see that one disk, and if everything is the same, then hey, you're good, you're off to the races. But if something changes, then it has a hard time taking care of it. And that's where I like to look at kind of scripted installations, or the post-install tasks can address it as well. So as I click on a scripted installation, gives me the ability. So I'm gonna do a new one. So a new scripted installation of Windows 10. So I could call this, I'll just call it June 19. And what is it I want to install? I'm going to do Windows 10 1709 is what I have in there right now. Great. I'll choose next. And then here, walk me through an answer file. Or if I already have one, then I could upload it. Or I could say I don't want one. It's just going to be a network install. But let's just walk through and create an answer file. So I chose that. Click next. Who's going to install it? And then what's the organization? Is a product key that I'm going to use, or is it a volume or multi-activation license? Coming down, I can also select my time zone. More information, administrator account, how many times am I going to want to reboot the machine? Work group, I always hear I will always leave it at work group. If you want to join it to a domain, I would do that as a post-installation task. Great, and then I would choose next. And then here, if you remember, this is where I had those pre-installation tasks. So I can say, hey, this is an existing machine, so I want to make sure I collect the computer name, and then I'm going to format C. And then I am going to, actually, I need to create a single partition before I format it. And then I'm going to put in a master boot record. Right? Why is it not doing that? Come on. There we go. And now I'm ready there. And then I can apply a computer name. And then once I've done that, let's go ahead and make sure that we're installing Adobe Reader. We're also going to join the domain and make sure that they get Office installed as well. So those are my post-installation tasks. And now as I scroll down, I can hit next, and it will go through a verification process and say, hey, do I have the files and the necessary things I need to actually execute on the commands that you've given it. So great. And then I'll go ahead and click finish. And now if I come to scripted installations, you'll see a June 19th. That's the one we just created. So, things that I can do with this, hey, that's my base image and I like that. I can duplicate this. And when I duplicate, it then, is going to do, great. So here I can call this June 19, and I can just call this, I'm going to call it payroll, because they get something different than the rest of the group. So I call it June 19 payroll, and I can come down and I can make sure that they are getting, the They get Notepad as well. And they also are going to get Firefox Quantum. There you go. So now I've done that. Guess what? I haven't doubled the image size. I haven't done anything because all it's doing is doing the changes. So it's only affecting the changes that are there. So again, we don't keep duplicating the size and redoing those images, so we reuse the same files over and over. So it creates a manifest file to kind of create a pointer or a directory to where those things are housed. We also have the ability for you to have remote sites. So, if you, again, are in more than one location, the ability for you to image a machine over the internet isn't there, right? But you can put a remote site appliance at a location, and it is just a companion appliance to the main KACE Systems deployment appliance, allowing you to, say, hey, these are the images that I want available at this remote office. And so when someone does a Pixie boot, guess what? They're pulling it from a local repository, making that imaging process much quicker. I can also do automated deployments. So if you are in an environment where you need to say, hey, I'm going to re-image a lab, on Saturday afternoon, guess what? We can automate that process. And if we just have, I'm going to click on one that I already have here for this student lab. And again, the deployment that I'm going to do, I could change that to my, what I want it to be. Who am I going to deploy it to? And make my life much easier. I actually wanted to come here to say, when do I want to run that? Do it at the next time it boots up, or put it on a time frame that I want it to run, so that you can automate that process. And if you do it, Saturday at 8 p.m. and then it's done by Monday morning when people come back in to start using that lab. So again, whether you want to do it in a manual process and make them press F12 and do it, we certainly have that capability. If you want to automate the process, we have solutions to help automate as well. So, we have a lot of ways to help simplify IT in your environment. We are always looking for ways to make it better and more useful. We have a lot of this Dell integration, whether we're talking about the management appliance or the deployment appliance. So again, it helps save and alleviate time and effort from the IT team. Having one tool where all of this data lives, you're not having to use multiple tools. You're not having to have multiple logins. You've got kind of one source to go to and get all of this data. And that kind of wraps up the KACE Systems deployment. Actually, I do want to cover tools. We've been doing imaging for a lot of years, and imaging, as I said, drivers are probably kind of the biggest pain in the neck. But there are other things, whether we're talking about sysprep or getting other drivers, that are not Dell related. Guess what? We have tools to help with that. We have a driver feed builder. So if you have, machines, a Lenovo or HP that you say, hey, it's all working and fine and doing everything we need it to do today, so I know I have the right drivers, guess what? We can go out and harvest the drivers from those machines, bring them into the KACE appliance, and the next time that machine boots up, we know which drivers to utilize with it. Because the advantage of having a Pixie boot is it does allow you to, when it detects what machine has logged in, it knows what drivers to associate with it. And that does wrap up the deployment appliance. It does, save you a lot of time. It helps, because these are both appliances, the way they update and the way that you can interface with them becomes greatly reduced from an overhead, from a management perspective. You don't need to do this on a daily basis. You don't have to check things. So I'm going to click on settings, and whether it's the deployment or the management appliance, guess what? I'm going to have appliance maintenance, and if there's an update, we're going to have it there for you, and you're going to be able to simply, right now I'm up to date, so I can check and see if there's an update. There won't be, but if there was, it would be listed there, and I could click a button to say update now. And so again, it's something that is relatively simple to do. Anytime you purchase KACE appliances, it does come with what we call quick start training. And that quick start training is nothing more than a WebEx like we've done today, but it is very focused on what you want it to cover. So it's meant to help you set up your KACE appliance. get it up and running so that you can use it. You know, it's intended to be used within the first few months of owning the KACE appliance so that it's up and running and performing what you want to do. It is recorded, so if you ever need to go back and have a refresher course, or if you hire somebody new and they need to see what's going on, that's fine too. It's all there. It's there for the purpose of, you know, you getting up and running and using that appliance, you know, as quickly as you can. So with that, Tom, I'll kind of open it up to questions or turn it back to you. And, you know, with those questions, if anyone wants to dig deeper into something, I'm happy to do that.
If you've got any questions, if you could type those into the message bar there, Richie can answer those. In the meantime, I did note that there are some handouts up above here. It says chat, Q&A, polls, and handouts. If you click on handouts, there'll be 3 handouts there.
If they can still see my screen, Tom, sorry, I just did that handouts. They can see where that is.
Yep. Richie mentioned appliance a number of times, and I just want to make sure you're aware that this does come as an appliance on a piece of hardware, or it can come as a piece of software that you can put onto a VM or your own standalone hardware as well. But 99% of people these days are loading this onto a VM and just using the software in that manner. I don't see any questions, Richie.
Oh, okay. Yep, you're right. The only question I saw was check out the handout section.
Right.
You know, the one thing that I would say then, Tom, you know, I mean, we would encourage you. I mean, if this looks appealing or interesting, you know, certainly we are happy to do, you know, a WebEx with anybody that wants to see something specific for their environment. Also, we encourage you to do a trial. You know, download it and try it in your environment so you can see exactly how it integrates with what you currently have today. The trial is fully functioning. You know, the only limitation is it only works on 25 machines.
Okay. Thanks very much, Richie. Thanks everybody for attending. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your time today. Bye-bye.